Chapter 321. Without Food. 2. A private room within the healing center of the Sword Emperor's castle. Oh my grandson. He still hasn't woken up. Huh? Look at him, when will my grandson wake up? He can't stay like this forever, right? His heart rate and body temperature are very stable, Lord Patriarch. He will surely wake up soon, so please don't worry. Dante, how much my grandson has suffered. Dante continued to feign unconsciousness, unaware, not even in his dreams, that Ron was aware of his plan and playing along. It tears at my heart. I'll leave. As soon as this old man returns, we'll eat the Imperial Dragon King's soup that my grandson loves so much. I'll tell the Emperor, no, His Majesty, to have a first-class chef prepared. While Ron whimpered, Dante felt a strange satisfaction for successfully deceiving his grandfather. Ron saw through his grandson's act but managed to hold back his laughter. Crunch. About 15 minutes after Ron left, Jean entered the treatment room. At the same time, Dante made a sound as if he were pretending to wake up. Young Patriarch, are you awake now? I passed out a while ago. How long have I been lying here? About 30 minutes. Not too long, that's good. Oh, Paul Gray Mick, you don't look so good. Please give us a moment. This friend and I have something to talk about. As soon as the medical staff left the room, Dante stifled his laughter. You fell for the trap too? No. Of course you couldn't be fooled. Jean, how was my performance? Wasn't it splendid? Haha, with this, grandfather must know how much I appreciate you. He probably promised 300 million gold coins. No, maybe even 500 million. Dante raised his voice, filled with excitement. I was a little worried deep down. I wondered if grandfather would look favorably on the friendship between Hiran and Runcandle. But in the end, grandfather is on my side. If I do something for your benefit, grandfather will also do something for your benefit. Dante stopped there and observed Jin's expression. Jean had lost all color from his face, with half of his soul seemingly absent from his empty eyes. Jean, what's wrong with you? They stole from me. What? Your grandfather stole from me. Is it true? It is. Dante couldn't believe it even when hearing firsthand. Had this demon-like friend of his been stripped of everything he owned by someone? As much as his grandfather was, Dante couldn't imagine Jean subjected to such a fate. Well, I'm sorry. I never expected it to end like this. Grandfather is not the type to do such things. No, you don't have to apologize. It was my carelessness. Sigh, you have such a good grandfather. Can I help in any way? Upon hearing that, Jean let out an ironic smile. To be honest, it wasn't just losses. In addition to the ceramics, I also handed over some parts of the ancient iron mine and even wrote a document, but I discovered the extent of Heron's intelligence network. The mission to assassinate the Black Knight was highly classified. Knowing what rewards Jean received after completing that mission meant that someone among the flagbearers had connections with Ron. Whoever that person is, they're unlikely to have betrayed Runcandle. They probably owe Sir Ron a favor. It's probably a one-time exchange of information. If they had planted a spy, Sir Ron wouldn't have been so confident. Jean even thought this could have turned out well. He came to the conclusion that he could figure out which of the flagbearers had given that information to Ron and use it to his advantage. He also learned what kind of existence Ron Hiran, the legendary knight, was. A role model patriarch who never let his guard down in any situation and never gave up his own interests for the sake of Hiran. However, he was also a loving and affectionate grandfather who would sacrifice more than his life for his grandson. In that sense, Sir Ron, it's as if he has already discovered my greatest weakness. The mere fact that Jean was Dante's most cherished friend made it impossible for Ron to treat him lightly. He had witnessed how Dante was willing to sacrifice himself to save Jean. Taking the ceramics and ancient iron was a warning. It's a warning not to dream of using Dante as a pawn in the future. In Jin's opinion, it wasn't a warning from a strong individual. Instead, it seemed like a boast from the position of unilaterally seizing something valuable. That's why he didn't feel like he had lost much, even after being deceived by Ron. I can recover what Sir Ron took from me today. The issue is the immediate loss of funds. It looks like I'll have to be more resourceful than expected to make money. Jean, for now, within the limits I can use without grandfather's permission, let's try to make as much money as possible. There's no hiding the frustration of being more of a burden than a help. All right, forget about the money. I can find it elsewhere. Is that possible? I'll make it possible. But most importantly, I met Baradin during the mission. You mean Ventica? The disputed territory of the Mila Kingdom where Runcandle and Zipple recently clashed? Dante's expression darkened even more. For Jean and Baradin to meet during a mission meant their purpose was to kill each other. Yes. How was Baradin? Since Jean had escaped to the Western Sea, Dante hadn't seen Baradin even once. He wasn't normal. Beyond mind manipulation, his mind was no longer intact. It seemed like he couldn't recognize me, and he even attacked me. Jean explained to Dante the events of that day. Throughout the narrative, Dante couldn't hide his bitter expression. I can't even imagine how broken Baradin would be once he regains his sanity. I think he won't be in that state of war-induced madness every day. Sometimes reports mention him engaging in normal external activities like banquets. I want to save him. I agree, but we have to wait for the right opportunity, until there's a safer chance. Jean. What? With a hesitant expression, Dante shifted his gaze between Jean and the floor, as if trying to bring up something difficult. If, let's say, Baradin reaches a point of no return, if he can never be the person he was again, and can only live as a puppet for Zipple, what will you do? He asked the question, but he didn't expect to get the answer he wished for. Dante thought Jean would either give up or consider killing Baradin as the path for his own good. That's what he believed Jin's response would be. However, he asked because he wanted to confirm it. He wanted to see if Jean shared the same sentiment. We'll find a way. Dante raised his head at Jin's response. Really? Of course. Why would I lie? I gain nothing from giving up on him. Besides, he's my friend. Jean, I'm deeply moved. That's why I want you to let Sir Ron know that I'm not a heartless person like he might think. Since grandfather found out about our relationship from today's events, I now feel more comfortable talking about you. Yes, I think it's time for me to go. Already? How about we have dinner together and have a drink before you leave? With the person who just collapsed from anemia? That was all an act. All right, we'll do it another time. Maybe send an invitation to Baradin, just in case. Understood. That night, as Jean returned to Tychon, he could realize how much Ron Hyran cherished his only grandson, although Dante also had a brother. Young Master Jean, what kind of magic did you perform? The atmosphere in Tychon, which had been gloomy until this morning, had completely transformed into a festive one. Sir Kashmir, what's going on? Young Master Jean, you truly are the lucky charm of our Tychon. Almost all the knights of Vermont are coming here with money and goods. Jean smiled, surprised by the news. Dante, this guy is bringing us great fortune. That's how Ron evaluated Jean. A little warrior who, when one thing is lost, always manages to take two or more. Without a doubt, Ron considered his grandson the best among his peers. In terms of strength, insight, strategy, courage, and even magic. That's why Ron had made the calculated decision never to interfere with his grandson unless it was absolutely necessary. He had come to the conclusion that meddling in his affairs would bring no benefit to his grandson, whom he loved and respected more than anyone in the world. A rain of money. Now I have more solid customers than before. Kashmir was practically dancing for joy. Sir Ron, you made a really good decision. Not only did you give us money, but you also solved fundamental problems. It meant that almost all the knights of Vermont, except for the imperial family, wanted to trade with Tychon. It wasn't just a favorable development for Tychon's economy. When Jean and Kashmir took over Tychon in the future, it meant they wouldn't have to worry as much about Runcandle's watchful eyes. Although there were certain points where Tychon's autonomy was compromised because they had to pay attention to Ron and Hyran instead of Runcandle. However, from Jin's perspective, if he had to fight one of the two factions, Runkandle or Hiran, for complete independence for Tychon, naturally the latter was less burdensome. After all, Runkandle was undeniably a stronger clan than Hiran. If the knights who visited us today confirm as our business partners, we won't have to look for money anymore. Jin raised his head at those words. But wouldn't it be better to have as much money as possible? Of course. I appreciate your concern. The young master's guests will arrive soon. Oh, look. It seems Jet is bringing them. Jin looked out the window and saw a warrior following Jet. He was approaching the mansion with strangely out-of-place movement, dressed in a robe and hood. Good evening. I've brought them here. Jet opened the door with a bang. Upon closer inspection, the warrior in the robe seemed much larger. His skeleton was so strange that he didn't look human. Jin shrugged as he saw the gleaming golden eyes beneath the hood. Jin. Guys, you always organize disguises for others so perfectly. Was this really the best choice? Warrior. Why not? Isn't it excellent? Russell. As he removed the robe, strands of hair that barely reached Jin's waist were revealed. The true identity of the warrior was someone from the Golden Snow Tribe, or rather, a combination of 4 people fused into one, forming a strange human structure. Well, not bad at all. It's been a while, Peng. Oh, come on. Are you really going to be like this? We're not poor beggars in that cave anymore. Call me Golden Peng, First Leader Peng. Sir Jin Runkandle, 12th Flag-Bearer of Runkandle. Chapter 322. Assault on the Villa 1. Alright then. Golden Peng, First Leader of the Peng clan. If this is your best disguise, then it's truly pitiful. I'm feeling a bit of confidence loss as we proceed as business partners. Confidence loss, you say? After experiencing our technical skills more than anyone else? I can't help but feel disappointed, he. As Peng laughed, the other 3 members of the Golden Snow Tribe joined in. I'm Golden Suni, 2nd leader of the Peng clan. Do you remember when we disguised you as a retired mercenary traveling the world? I'm Golden Dory, 3rd leader of the Peng clan. Nice to meet you again, Jin Runkandle. I'm Golden Song, 4th leader Peng. Looking closely, your face is quite unique for a human. It certainly befits our Peng clan's reputation. Peng, Suni, Dory, Song. The 4 of them were the esteemed figures who portrayed the Golden Snow Tribe as the greatest merchants in the Zhan Kingdom. Well, how should we treat these little ones who keep talking disrespectfully to our lord? My lord is the honorable flag-bearer of Runkandle. When Jet made a joking remark while clenching his fist, Kashmir grabbed him by the shoulder. Shut up and step aside. The young master will deal with it in due time. Yes. Are you the Phantom Sword, Sir Kashmir? Thanks for stepping in. I was thinking of giving that rude friend a lesson. Peng snorted as he watched Jet walk away with a lonely expression. Shush, shush. The members of the Golden Snow Tribe extended their fists into the air, making a whistling sound. Seeing these Golden Snow Tribe members, Jin and Kashmir suppressed their laughter. They were undoubtedly a likable bunch. Thanks to you, we've managed to amass wealth. But the real business begins now. We've prepared, but we couldn't start the business ourselves without a protagonist. Peng and Suni told Jin. I like it. After becoming the flag-bearer of Runkandle, we'll discuss the real business. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting all of you. I'm leaving. That was the last thing Jin said when he met the Golden Snow Tribe. The business they were talking about was the cosmetics business. So far, the Golden Snow Tribe had accumulated wealth by investing their fortune in various merchants and significant businesses. But now they wanted to start a business directly themselves. An innovative business that could conquer the world. Shrrr. Dory and Song unfolded the thick paper they had prepared in advance. The paper, almost 2 centimeters thick, contained business plans and contract details. Well, take a quick look. The contractor is Jin Runkandle, and the contractee is the Peng clan. Well, there are no particularly significant provisions to worry about. In summary, the profit split is 50-50, full operational control is our responsibility, and you must faithfully comply with advertising. Contract termination is absolutely prohibited. I don't like it from the start. The profit split should be 70:30. I'll take the 70. As for management rights, you can have full control over the Beastmen land, but in human residential areas, you should consider my opinion to some extent. The latter is acceptable, but isn't the first one too much? 70:30? Are you trying to act like a bandit against us? Instead, the Golden Snow Tribe will officially receive protection from the 12th flag bearer of Runcandle. It means I'll take full responsibility for material damages caused by direct attacks from anyone, let's say assaults, looting, robberies, and so on. It's tempting. As members of the Golden Snow Tribe, it was genuinely an interesting story. The reason they hadn't started their own business until now was primarily due to two reasons. One was waiting for Jean, and the other was a lack of means to protect themselves. The second problem was significant. Even if they had a lot of money, finding a trustworthy armed group was not easy. They had no lineage, no great reputation, no power. The Golden Snow Tribe was nothing more than a group of small, money-grubbing beastmen. The Guardian Knights of Runcandle had sent some troops to recover Bradamanti, so they were protecting the money they had accumulated. But the money was in a fragile state like a candle in the wind. The Red Tigers were carefully watching the Guardian Knights of Runcandle and demanding payments, and their attitude seemed to indicate that if they resisted, they would kill and plunder them entirely. If Runcandle attacks us, will you compensate for the losses? Of course. And if Zippel attacks? Naturally. All right, we accept. Surprisingly, Peng readily accepted Jin's proposal. He judged that it was more advantageous to have a secure 30% than to risk losing the 50% they currently owned. I've been listening to your business plan and it seems very detailed and innovative, especially when it comes to advertising. You've put a lot of thought into it. Peng and the members of the Golden Snow Tribe began to explain the business plan. It was a fairly long story, but it could be summarized in one line. They would directly use Jean Runcandle's character in their S. Imagine this, Jean Runcandle. Wherever you go, there will be large paintings of your face on prominent buildings, the size of a ship's sail. You'll pose with our cosmetics, holding the products. There will also be text below. Experience the beauty chosen by Jean Runcandle. Try the cosmetics of the Peng clan. Or discover your new beauty. Recommended by Jean Runcandle. Cosmetics from the Peng clan. How does that sound? Innovative, right? Whenever people think of Peng clan cosmetics, they will naturally think of your face. In fact, no one had ever done product ads like this before. Furthermore, our cosmetics are divided into 3 categories: premium golden snow, affordable silver snow, and costume-specialized onyx snow. We will extract money from all the humans in the world, from ordinary commoners to the nobility of Vermont. Onyx Snow cosmetics for costumes will be applied by the expert technicians of the Golden Snow Tribe themselves, providing a perfect transformation as if you were a retired mercenary. This is a special product mainly intended for those involved in covert operations. It won't be included in the ads and can only be discreetly purchased. Additionally, a portion of the profits will be donated to various organizations to promote a positive and friendly image of the Golden Snow Tribe. Have you heard of cosmetic donations? The technicians of the Golden Snow Tribe will travel the world and hold free makeup events every week. Throughout the explanation, Kashmir couldn't close his mouth. Jean was also inwardly amazed at their business acumen. Young master, it may seem crazy at first, but it will undoubtedly work. It seems like all the young people in the world will try to follow the young master. Will my face be painted on every big building in every city? Well, you're not a provisional flag bearer anymore, right? Do you need to hide your face? If you really don't want to, we can use another face, but there are few individuals who can surpass you in influence and appearance. In fact, it seems like there are none. I don't dislike it. I only said it out of naivety. No. It's a very good idea. The first time Jean thought about doing business with the cosmetics of the Golden Snow Tribe was during his time as a provisional flag bearer. Their cosmetics undoubtedly surpassed the most well-known products in the market. With proper distribution, They had enough technological advancements to captivate the world. In that sense, Jean thought that the cosmetics of the Golden Snow Tribe had a similar look to Zippel's vital magic products. Most people in the world, whether they liked it or not, could only use Zippel's products. Zippel had dominated the world using various vital magic products like magical lights and magic-powered appliances. Often, Zippel would impose itself in negotiations with various powers by threatening to cut off their supply of life magic products if they didn't accept the deal. Of course, not many people in the world knew about Zippel's misdeeds. Even if they did, they couldn't easily raise issues. On the other hand, Runcandle only possessed physical strength. Although the weapons created by Runcandle's blacksmith sold well, the demand was limited. There were far more ordinary people in the world than warriors. As a result, over time, Zippel's influence expanded to more places in the world, while Runcandle's power inevitably waned, because there were more things that could be achieved with magic than with physical strength. The decline was not yet visible, but it was an inevitable fate that would eventually become evident. The Runcandle family seemed to be solely focused on defeating Zippel and undermining its influence. However, that alone was not enough. The matter with the Golden Snow Tribe was the beginning of a change. Jean smiled and extended his hand to shake hands with the Golden Snow Tribe. "When do we start?" "As soon as you sign the contract." "Then let's start right now." When Jean signed the contract, the members of the Golden Snow Tribe shook his hand. "Let's make money together. First, we should start with advertising in Huffister. Jean Runcandle or simply Runcandle." From that day on, whenever people thought of Jean Runcandle, they would naturally associate him not only with his formidable combat skills but also with a variety of beautiful cosmetics. And so a week passed. Joshua, accompanied by his butler Howard and his closest aides, personally visited the kingdom of Carano. They had heard a strange story about a portrait of Jean Runcandle, his younger brother, hung in Carano's central square. To their surprise, Joshua was able to confirm the existence of a giant portrait of Jean at the entrance to Carano's art district. Choice of Jean Runcandle. Pong Clan Cosmetics. The brilliant smile depicted in the portrait was like a sharp blade that scratched Joshua's heart. Howard. Joshua, momentarily lost in thought as he read the text below the portrait, opened his mouth. "Yes. What on earth is this? Our clan's flag-bearer approves of such cosmetics." "Cosmetics? I have no words. We cut off his money supply, and now this massive disaster happens." Shriek. Joshua clenched his teeth. Thinking about how people would mock and ridicule Runcandle after seeing those ads was beyond his imagination. What did the name Runcandle represent? For 1,000 years, Runcandle symbolized terror in the world, but now the youngest, who had just become the flag-bearer, dared to tarnish that name. Furthermore, he dared to besmirch the name of Runcandle, which would soon be his. Not only Joshua but many people gathered in front of Jin's portrait, laughing as if they were witnessing a curious creature. Witnessing such a scene, Joshua felt his judgment warping and feared going insane. Immediately inform the Council of Elders and recommend disciplinary measures against that lunatic brat, and get rid of that damn portrait. What about the portraits outside of Huffister? Do they exist outside of Huffister too? I've heard that the portraits of the 12th flag-bearer are already displayed in cities of the Lutero Magical Federation. Investigate who is responsible for this. Don't apprehend them lightly. First, find out who they are and what they intend to do. Thoroughly investigate who is behind them. Meanwhile, as Joshua vented his anger in the kingdom of Carano, Jean and his companions gradually gathered in a forest in the kingdom of Ekin. It was where Joshua's secret villa was located. Chapter 323. Assault on the Villa 2. It was a dense and deep forest. The path was not well paved in any direction, and even monsters roamed the abandoned forest. Not many people in the world could build a villa in a place like this and maintain it. Joshua had his guardian knights and hunting dogs residing here. Gur, gur. From somewhere, unknown creatures emitted low growls. However, the monsters couldn't approach Jean recklessly because they feared the intimidating aura that emanated from him, the aura of the Clan of Legends. If Sister Luna hadn't told me, even with the 7-colored peacock's information-gathering ability, it would have been impossible to find this place. In a way, this villa was situated in a place that only someone who had grown up with Joshua by his side could find. When Joshua was a teenager, there was a forest he used to go to for training on the days when I bullied him a lot. It was a forest where monsters appeared. It seems he chose that place to follow in Father's footsteps training in the Black Sea. Luna shared the story while revealing the location of the secret villa. The people of the Ekin Kingdom called this place the Abandoned Forest, the Dark Forest, or the Abyssal Forest, just as people named useless and dangerous forests in various regions. The nearby village disappeared after being attacked by monsters, and the Ekin Kingdom lacked the capability to clear the forest. Young Joshua considered this place the perfect training ground, and he thought his father would be delighted. He hoped that if he trained alone in this forest, just like his father did in the Black Sea, he would eventually be recognized. Only once Siren mentioned something about that forest to Joshua. "You're doing well, but you won't be able to catch up to your sister like this." Siren rarely praised his children. So, if he combined praise and admonishment and it wasn't a mocking tone, it was certainly closer to praise. But at that time, Joshua, who respected his father, couldn't stand being compared to Luna, even at that moment when he was training following his father. So, he personally led the knights of his faction and set fire to the villa. From that day on, the villa disappeared from Runcandle's records, and Joshua stopped searching for the Ekin Kingdom. It was about 10 years after that, for some reason, Joshua found this place again and built a villa identical to the one he made in his youth. It might be because of his affection for father, or simply because he liked that forest, or maybe because his sense of inferiority has diminished. I don't know the reason, but in any case, it seems to have become quite an important place. While Jean briefly recalled Luna's story, he felt a presence and turned his head. Through the dense and dark trees, he saw people with masks. They were Kashmir, Elisa, Kazan, and Yulian. They had just arrived in the forest and had now found Jean. "We've erased all the traces the young master left when he arrived," Kazan said politely, bowing his head. As Kazan said, his companions had erased the tracks that Jean intentionally left behind so they could find him. "Thank you for your hard work." According to the information provided by Luna, the number of residents inside the villa was approximately 3 guardian knights and 10 hunting dogs. You can kill the hunting dogs, but try to do without the guardian knights unless absolutely necessary. If you can't subdue them, then you can eliminate them. Especially with Kazan and Yulian, there might be an old comrade who recognizes their skills, so they have to change their fighting style. The reason they wanted to do without the Guardian Knights if possible was that they were individuals who had sworn loyalty to Runcandle before becoming followers of Joshua. Jean wanted to avoid killing more Guardian Knights of the clan in the future. In other words, he wanted to give them a chance. Before the large-scale confrontation with Joshua began, Jean wanted to give them the opportunity to surrender. Knights who made wise decisions had the option to be recruited. Understood. Jean, Kashmir, and Elisa had brought different weapons than usual. Elisa carried a pair of daggers instead of her usual gauntlets. Jean turned his gaze towards Yulian. Yulian, who used to be extremely introverted and always seemed scared whenever Joshua's name came up, seemed even tenser today. Yulian. Yes. He's definitely here. Upon hearing those words, Yulian clenched her lips tightly. Jean gave her a light tap on the shoulder and continued. Let's go in. Jean and his companions began to advance quickly along the forest path. Except for Yulian, the rest didn't seem particularly tense. They had enough power to easily handle 3 Guardian Knights and 10 hunting dogs, as long as the opponent of Executor Knight level wasn't here. The tall trees densely covered the area, darkening it, but it was still daytime. As they approached the villa, the trees became thinner, and finally, amidst the dense foliage, the villa standing in the center became visible. The sunlight spilled onto the cabin-like building in the middle of the forest. It was quite a picturesque scene, but it didn't seem like it could accommodate 13 people, not by a long shot. The building was originally constructed by Joshua for his personal use and had been restored exactly as it was, so its scale was very small. It looked more like a hut than a villa. The The group approached the entrance of the villa, making sure their steps were silent. Inside, there were two of Joshua's hunting dogs. They were playing randomly with each other and only sensed the presence of intruders when the group was right in front of them. But by then, it was already too late. Swoosh! Swoosh! Kazan's venomous needles pierced through their throats through the gaps in the windows. When they collapsed onto the table, Kazan skillfully retrieved his needles and erased any trace of injury. Other than those two, there was no one else inside the villa. Neither the 3 guardian knights nor the other 8 hunting dogs were visible. They must be underground. Given the small size of the building, finding the passageway leading underground was not a difficult task. As long as they knew there was an underground area, of course. Elisa opened the hidden door in the floor, checking for traps. Since the residents moved frequently, there were no special traps near the entrance. Once they descended, they found themselves in a completely dark corridor. The group quickly lit the magical lanterns hanging from the belts of the sacrificed hunting dogs. Unlike the small cabin above, the underground area had a considerable scale at first glance. Do not spread out, Sir Kashmir. We don't know the internal structure. Understood, young Master Jean. As they descended further underground, the group had not encountered any enemies for about 10 minutes. During that time, they realized that the underground seemed to be a prison-like structure. Behind iron bars, there were cells covered in bloodstains, but all the places they had seen so far were empty. The bloodstains belonged to both humans and dragons. In the cells where the dragons had been imprisoned, scales were scattered everywhere, making it easy to distinguish. Yulian couldn't hide her unease. The reason her group had decided to assault this mansion was that Yulian's guardian dragon was held captive here. The traces of captive dragons must belong to the guardian dragons of the contractors Joshua brought with him. The number was certainly not small. That raised a question. How could such a large number of dragons be guarded by only 13 humans? That seems unlikely. There must be some other device or means. The first thing that came to Jin's mind was the demon god's orb. Among the objects Jin knew, the only means to terrorize or control dragons would be that. But Joshua didn't seem to have a demon god's orb. As they were lost in their thoughts, they suddenly came across a man in the hallway. He didn't seem like a guardian knight or a hunting dog. His hunched back barely reached Jin's waist. He was completely covered in ragged robes and held a staff. A stranger that Jin had not heard of from Luna. He didn't even seem human. None of the members, including Jin, could sense any energy from him. What? Are the materials coming today too? He spoke in a deep and somber voice. While Kuzan tried to subdue the suspect with his poisoned needle, Jin raised his hand to stop him. Jin realized that the man's vacant eyes were staring into nothingness. He couldn't see what was in front of him. Unless he was blind, he wouldn't react like this even after seeing those suspicious masks. But who is he? The rest of the team also realized that fact sometime later. How many of them came? The man's use of the word materials referred to humans. 5. Only a handful. I can't do anything with that number. Just throw them in and go. I've been curious for a while, but what are these materials for? When Jin approached and asked, the man lifted his head. TSK, Sir Joshua made a big mistake this time. Letting someone like you ask such a question. Crack! He struck the floor with his staff. Immediately, ominous purple magic circles appeared on the floor, ceiling, and walls. Intuitively, Jin and the others could sense that this was ancient dark magic. That meant not even Jin had any idea of what kind of effect this magic would have. In a brief instant, several thoughts crossed Jin's mind. Should he kill the man to dispel the magic? Or defend against the unknown magic and subdue him to obtain information? The latter option appealed to him, but the risk was too high to guarantee the safety of his comrades. Bam! Jin lunged forward and drove his sword into the man's neck. Jin considered that cutting off his limbs wouldn't stop the magic. Gwa! The man shivered and fell forward. Not even a second had passed since the magic circle was activated. Young master, are you all right? I'm not sure what kind of magic it was, so I killed him. It might have been something like what Myron did, trying to summon something from hell. When Jean removed the fallen man's hood, the purple magic circles lost their light and disappeared. It was a horrifying face. The features were so distorted that it was impossible to distinguish the nose from the mouth, and the body looked as if someone had forcibly pieced together chunks of flesh. Moreover, it seemed like the man was already weakened even before Jean killed him. Well done. Who is this? A magician? No, he doesn't seem human. He certainly doesn't look human, more like a demon. I've been taught how weakened demons can end up like this during my days in the Special Forces. Elisa added an explanation to Cashimir's question. Jean searched the man's robe, checking his belongings. Strange and worn pieces of paper and bone fragments, whether from animals or humans, fell from the inner pockets of the robe. Plop, clatter, and then a familiar black marble rolled out. Young Master Jean, this is... Cashmere exclaimed in shock as he looked at the marble. The marble closely resembled an object that Jean and the others knew. It was made exactly from the same material. A shadow energy pearl? The recording device used by Soderette. The bead that had fallen from the man's robe was precisely that. Chapter 324. Assault on the Villa 3. On reflex, Jean picked up the bead. Upon closer examination, it resembled Soderette's recording device. The only difference was that it weighed slightly more than the previous ones. Wait, what is this doing here? The unexpected discovery left him speechless. Jin's companions looked equally puzzled, exchanging wide-eyed glances. Joshua, where did he get this? Could he have accessed Timar's tomb? Timar's tomb was inaccessible without the proper qualification, and that qualification was none other than being Soderette's contractor. Immediately, two assumptions came to mind. First, the figure known as the Prophet must have used some trick to allow Joshua to enter Timar's tomb. Second, Joshua obtained this recording device from a place other than Timar's tomb. Regardless of which one it was, the important question was whether he knows that this bead is a recording device. Jean looked at the fallen demon. The dead can't speak. If it had been possible to revive the demon, Jean could have gathered quite a bit of information. But now he had turned into a lifeless corpse, dark blood spilling from its throat. A real pity. However, it was an unexpected harvest. Compared to the near-death experiences Jean went through every time he acquired a recording device, this one practically fell into his lap. Young master, it would be wise to collect the demon's other belongings as well. Yes, it seems worth investigating this demon. Jean rummaged through the demon's possessions. Apart from a stack of illegible ancient texts, demonic symbols, and a book, there didn't seem to be anything worth taking. And then, almost unconsciously, Jean opened the book. Whoosh! Suddenly, the book emitted an ominous purple glow, and from within it, a peculiar voice resonated. You, who have dared to lay hands on the great Duke of the Demon World, the magical tome of Rontelgius. Rontelgius shall curse you forever. You shall turn into a stone statue while you are alive, and your body shall not die even if shattered. Even if you turn to dust, blame yourself forever. It was a voice different from the deceased demons. As soon as the curse ended, a translucent, purple chain with a peculiar vibration shot out from the book and ensnared Jean. Young Master! Young Master Jean! Jin's companions reacted alarmed, drawing their swords. Naturally, the cursed chain did not yield to their swords, and Jean calmly, raising his hand, signaled that he was fine. Do not be alarmed. After all, I am immune. Soderette's contractors were completely immune to all sorts of curses. Valeria, before the regression, had described this ability as excessively cheap. And now, Jean was experiencing that power after a long time. The chains that had bound Jean slowly seeped into his shadow, blending with it seamlessly. The chains took no more than 5 seconds to completely disappear without a trace. Jin's companions, unknowingly, silently watched in awe before asking, Young Master, are you really okay? Yes, fortunately. If it had been someone else who touched this book, wouldn't they have turned into a statue? Unless Rontelgius had rigged this book with such a device just to scare us. When the chains had enveloped him, Jean felt a chill. Not because he feared the curse, but because Jean realized the terrible fate that would have befallen any other companion who had touched it. From now on, we must be more cautious when dealing with demons or those who wield dark magic. This time we were lucky. We learned the name Rontelgius, presumably this demon's family. FSSS. The demon's body began to disintegrate. There was no trace left where the corpse had lain, not even a sign of the spilled blood. Wretched creatures. Let's move on. The group continued their journey. Perhaps due to the sudden encounter with the demon, Jin's companions were even more nervous. However, they didn't encounter any enemies until they reached the end of the underground facility. 3 guardians, 8 watchdogs, and the rest of the members were absent. Oddly, that unsettled Jin. If there were so few personnel, perhaps Yulian's guardian dragon had been moved elsewhere. As that sense of unease brushed Jin's mind, Yulian pointed with trembling hands beyond the underground darkness. Kaltor. When the light illuminated the area, a human figure hanging on the wall became visible. It was none other than Kaltor, Yulian's guardian dragon who had transformed into a human. His appearance was devastatingly pitiful. His hands and feet were impaled on large spikes, and his body bore traces of indescribable torture. He barely seemed to be breathing. Kaltor, it's me, Yulian. I'll free you soon. Tears flowed incessantly from Yulian's eyes. This time, Kazan, who seemed to sympathize with Yulian, silently pulled at the spikes. With each pull, Kaltor's body trembled. But there were no signs of him regaining consciousness. Kaltor, please respond. What have those bastards done to you? He's alive, Yulian. We can take him back and get him treated. Young master will surely summon the saints of Vankila for you. So calm down, lower your voice. It must be agonizing now, but Joshua no longer has any means to threaten you, right? Kazan patted Yulian's back as he spoke. Jean took off his coat and wrapped the weakened Kaltor in it. Let's go back. Back on the surface, just before escaping from the forest. Jean turned his head and looked at Joshua's secret villa, which stood alone. If Father had truly recognized him during Joshua's training days here, would he have become less trash than he is now? A sudden question crossed Jin's mind, making him shake his head. No, considering the timing of my curse at the age of 1, it's very likely that it coincided with the time he became so despicable. Sometimes I wonder what made him so wicked. We've discovered a hideout, my lord. Among the 3 guardian knights, the leader reported to Joshua. Where is it? Surprisingly, it's in a remote area of the eastern part of the Ekan Kingdom. It's called Donkey Village, with a total population of fewer than 100 people, mostly elderly. In a place like that? Are you sure? Yes, we confirmed it by intimidating the residents. They even built a laboratory in a part of the village. I personally inspected the laboratory, and the descriptions given by the villagers about Arya Owlheart match perfectly. The darkest place is under the lamp, as they say. That fits perfectly. However, it would have been difficult to find without the demon's detection magic. The 3 guardian knights and the 8 watchdogs were supposed to be waiting in Joshua's secret villa. The reason for their absence was to trace Arya Owlheart, who had been detected in the Ekan Kingdom using dark magic. Rontelgius Lamphen. Joshua nodded, recalling the demon's horrific appearance. Yes, he devoured 1,000 prisoners, calling them ingredients for the detection magic. In the end, it seems to have yielded results. Was there any clue about Arya Owlheart's other hideout in that donkey village? Since the routes to leave Donkey Village are limited, if we trace the expected movement routes, we can narrow down the suspicious areas. One thing is certain, Arya Owlheart has another hideout in Huffister. How long will it take to secure another hideout? We can discover at least one location within a month. Continually reducing the scope that way we can properly corner them. Understood. Make every effort to shorten the time as much as possible. We'll soon bring more satisfactory results and provide more prisoners for Lamphen. His magic has proven exceptional. Joshua smiled. Rontelgius Lamphen, if he can uncover the true nature of that pearl. I should also consider providing prisoners for my clones. The power of the Shadow Pearl. Joshua obtained it in the Runcandle clan's mausoleum. It was during his early days as a cadet, on a day when he was as distracted as ever, losing to Luna as usual. Instead of cursing himself locked in his room as usual, Joshua headed to the clan's mausoleum. Even now, he couldn't remember why he suddenly went to the mausoleum. It was as if fate guided him or something possessed him. And in the deepest part of the mausoleum, in the empty tomb where the first patriarch, Timar, should have rested, he found the Shadow Energy Pearl. When I touched the power of the Shadow Pearl, the voice of that dog-like creature started to resonate. The dog-like creature, the prophet. At first, it only existed as a voice that comforted young Joshua and offered him advice. As Joshua grew, the voice took on tangible form. It started as a nebulous apparition like a ghost, and roughly when he became a flag-bearer, it transformed into the clear image of a woman, just as it is now. But the prophet doesn't know that it awakened inside that pearl. She doesn't even know that I have the pearl. Even in the days when Joshua fully trusted the prophet, he never told her about the pearl. It was his inherent instinct. Even as a child, Joshua instinctively felt that the power of the Shadow Pearl could serve as a safety mechanism. In other words, he thought it might be useful if the prophet ever betrayed him for some reason. Nowadays, considering the prophet's attitude, I have a feeling she could betray me at any moment. Either I deal with her as soon as I become patriarch or I secure a means to control her before that. I have to choose one of the two options. Joshua still clung to that old intuition about the power of the Shadow Pearl. That's why, casually or perhaps inevitably, he entrusted Lamphen, the demon, to figure out its purpose. I'll take my leave now, my lord. As the guardian knight finished the report and saluted, preparing to leave, someone rushed in, urgently calling for Joshua. My lord! It was one of the hunting dogs that entered the room and bowed his head. What's going on? The abandoned forest villa was assaulted. What did you say? Unfortunately, it happened precisely as we were heading to the eastern part of Ekin, based on the information we received from the demon. Joshua suppressed the curse that rose in his throat. The guardian knight who was about to depart also looked at the hunting dog, startled. What is the extent of the damage? The thunder dragon that was captured and the demon disappeared, and the two remaining individuals were found dead. The hunting dog couldn't ascertain for certain whether the demon was killed or simply vanished. There were no traces left since there were no remains of the demon in the secret underground facilities of the abandoned mansion. We tried to track them, but they are exceptional. There are no traces. It's frustrating. Phew! Joshua took a deep breath. In the end, he had no choice but to rely on the prophet once again. Chapter 325. What Punishment? 1. Tychon. Jin's companions were huddled together, gazing at the newly acquired Shadow Energy Pearl. So, you got this by raiding that bastard's mansion, huh? Murakan scratched his chin and spoke. It was difficult for him, as well as the others, to comprehend how Joshua had ended up with Soderet's recording device. How in the hell did that happen? Why does that guy have Soderet's recording device? And he even killed a demon, and it turned out to be Rontelgius. Next to the Shadow Energy Pearl lay Rontelgius's magic tome. There was also a bundle of papers dropped by the slain demon. Do you know the name? No. Do you even know the family? I know the name. Listen closely, kid. You had an incredible stroke of luck. Because surviving an encounter with a Rontelgius demon is no small feat. Just stabbing him in the throat killed him instantly. He seemed rather weak. That's why I said you were lucky. Rontelgius is a noble family of the demon race. They are one of the 4 great ducal families with power just below the Demon King. The Demon King, the 4 great dukes of the demon world. Jin couldn't grasp how important that position was, the power and influence they held. Neither he nor the others could quickly understand it. They had never encountered demons before. Today, with the decline of the demon race, it's natural that you wouldn't know their name. But there was a time when even the mightiest dragons avoided conflicts with Rontelgius. It wasn't just a matter of life or injury. As seen in the curse hanging from Rontelgius Lamphin's magic tome, the Rontelgius family was known for their mastery of curses among demons. Curses are curses, but Rontelgius was a family close to the demon beast king, Orgel. Maybe Murakan didn't know it because he was asleep, but Orgel had a notorious reputation even during the Holy Kingdom Protection War. However, after the Holy Kingdom Protection War ended in the victory of the Human Alliance, Orgel withdrew from the human world. Orgel had never been especially visible in the human world, but he completely disappeared after the war. Quickhantle, it seems that demons have weakened considerably since then, right? To the point where they can be taken down with just one blow. The demon was in a weakened state, as Jean said, and if Jean weren't Soderet's contractor, he would have been cursed with no chance of resisting. Quickhantle spoke with hidden meaning as he looked at Jean. Your brother, the second flag-bearer of Runcandle. We need to find out how he got involved with Rontelgius and if he knows the purpose of the Shadow Energy Pearl. We must investigate. How Joshua obtained the Shadow Energy Pearl and his connection to demons were currently a mystery. Does that guy even know that the Shadow Energy Pearl is a recording device? Well, once he returns to the family, Joshua will come to me first. Young master, Joshua has no reason to do that. When we escaped from the Ekin Kingdom, I made sure to erase all traces. Jean smiled at Kazan's words. Yes, you erased all evidence. But even without evidence, that guy will convince himself based on his intuition alone. That won't be a problem. It's just part of the power struggle, and the dragons haven't intervened. So, are you going to ask Joshua directly about that? About what? I'll decide based on the atmosphere. I still can't predict how he'll react. Then when you return, we'll investigate Rontelgius. It's hard to believe the demon died so easily. Maybe it was a discarded demon from Rontelgius, or maybe the Rontelgius family itself has fallen. We should also find someone who can decipher the magic tome and the bundle of papers. They seem to be important clues. And Jean looked at Yulian, who was sitting quietly in a corner of the office. We should discuss how we can awaken Yulian's guardian dragon, the Thunder Dragon, Kaltor. He had fallen into a sleep state after enduring prolonged and brutal torture. As a result, even after his rescue, Yulian couldn't exchange a single word with the guardian dragon he longed for so much. I've mentioned it before, kid. The dragon named Kaltor has a broken heart and needs at least 500 years to recover. Gilly instinctively covered Murakan's mouth. There must be a way, Yulian, so don't lose hope and wait patiently. Yulian looked at his companions with reddened eyes. Thank you all. As he said that, everyone blinked. It was because Yulian had used a respectful tone for the first time. The cheeky brat is using formal language. The surprising, gak, feels good. Well, this Murakan will somehow awaken your guardian dragon. So wait quietly until then. Now that I think about it, since he's not even 1,000 years old, his heart should recover easily. It seems things are more or less settled. So, Gilly, Murakan, and I will return to the family in a couple of days. Since I've been leaving the Garden of Swords empty too often lately, it will be difficult to visit Tychon for a while unless something special happens. Then, I'll see you next time. Yes. Thank you for always taking care of us, Arya. Valeria slightly bowed her head and turned away. The elders of Donkey Village waved their hands, showing the few teeth they had left, until she disappeared from their view. As soon as she disappeared completely from their sight, Valeria clenched her teeth and touched her forehead. In recent years, no pursuer from any faction had come near her. They either circled around her long-abandoned hideouts or wasted their efforts by targeting completely different places. But this time was different. The Donkey Village hideout has been exposed, and the pursuers' movements have become more sophisticated. Zing dash! As Arya infused mana into the staff, blue mana radiated from it. The mana soon formed a rectangular, translucent window, and surprisingly, words began to appear on it. A 29-year-old woman named Clever visited Donkey Village and harassed the elders. No further records available. A 34-year-old man named McRolin visited Donkey Village, persuaded the elders, and inquired about the whereabouts of Arya Alhart. No further records. Clever and McRolin. Surnames of prestigious knight clans from Huffaster. Based on those names, Valeria could deduce that the faction that had found her was the Guardians of Runcandle Knights. My mother and my older brother are looking for you. They discovered the name you're currently using. Arya Alhart, right? I have more than that alias, and I've been erasing my tracks quite well. Anka Rothman, Riley Hazard, Lucille Scop, Hartia Ben. Aren't those your aliases? And if you say you've been erasing your tracks well, aren't you and I having a nice conversation? She recalled the conversation she had with Jean in Mummet. I underestimated the major clans too much. The pursuers' movements have changed. What was fortunate, from Valeria's perspective, was that it wasn't Zippel who discovered Donkey Village but Runcandle. Whoosh! Valeria released the magic disc and looked toward Donkey Village. The elders will contact Runcandle soon. Just a few days ago, those people who followed her as saviors, the elders of Donkey Village, abandoned mostly by their children and without hope, clung to life with no prospects. And yet, those elders revealed everything about her to Runcandle. They didn't know much, but they told everything they could. Valeria never expected loyalty from those elders. No, Valeria didn't expect loyalty from anyone. However, an indescribable bittersweet feeling welled up from the depths of her heart, and there was nothing she could do about it. At least no one was exterminated because of me. I must move forward, toward the hideout in the Lutero Magical Federation. She traveled diligently until dusk. Using both land and sea routes, she used over 5 different identities as she passed through checkpoints. Along the way, she stopped at Samel and received letters and goods sent by Jean. She arrived safely in the Palin Kingdom of the Lutero Magical Federation. And as soon as she arrived, in the middle of the checkpoint entrance, she saw the face of Jean Runcandle. Jean Runcandle guarantees your beauty. Cosmetics from the Pung clan. Unconsciously, Valeria swallowed and stared at a cosmetics ad? What on earth is this guy thinking? Valeria stood there, unable to look away from the billboard for a while before finally moving her steps. When she arrived at the Palin Kingdom hideout, it was already morning. Only then could Valeria check the letters and goods she had found in Samel. This is the first letter. These are cosmetic tools that can create a convincing disguise when applied randomly. You should be thankful that these items fix your clumsy disguises. If you think you might get caught, contact Tychon. That's it for now. Valeria lifted her head as she examined the merchandise. There was one more letter. I didn't expect to send a second letter so soon. The reason is that there's another recording device. I hope we can meet as soon as possible. Contact Tychon so we can arrange a meeting place. He got another shadow energy pearl? Phew! With a burst of energy, Valeria let out a sigh. Obtaining a recording device that she couldn't find no matter how hard she searched the world was something that Jean Runcandle seemed to do effortlessly. Even for the sake of the investigation, Valeria thought it was necessary to meet with Jean Runcandle once again. Anyway, it's a gain for me. Jean Runcandle, I'll make good use of you. As soon as he returned to Huffaster, Jin's butler, Petro, urgently sought him out. Young master, what's the matter, Petro? Something important has happened. The Elder Council has issued disciplinary action against you. Disciplinary action? For what reason? Calm down and tell me slowly. What is the content of the disciplinary action? Although he asked, to some extent Jean had anticipated it. The involvement with the Golden Snow tribe and the cosmetics business they had started. It was undoubtedly the reason behind it. Most likely an arrest warrant or disciplinary unit order was issued. Being subject to a disciplinary unit might be better than being confined to the Garden of Swords. After experiencing the life of a flag-bearer, Jean thought that being locked in a disciplinary unit for a year wouldn't be so bad. There were too many prying eyes in the Garden of Swords. Therefore, as Soderet's contractor, there were too many things to worry about every time he had to fulfill his duties, like visiting Timar's tomb or managing Soderet's affairs. Anyway, even if I go to the disciplinary unit, It's an easy task to achieve results and create a justification to return to the main family. It might actually work. Just when he thought that, the disciplinary measure that came out of Petro's mouth was something Jean had never expected. The content of the disciplinary measure is the prohibition of engaging in external activities. The duration is 3 years. Chapter 326. What punishment? 2. Jean thought he had misheard. What? No external access for 3 years? Are you sure? Yes, young master. The conversation is already circulating among the stewards and servants. No. What's the basis for this? Well, it's because of the recent business you've started, young master. They must be joking. Is the elder council suggesting such a ridiculous punishment of 3 years prohibition just because I did some advertising? It seems so. Have they all gone mad? Are they treating Runcandle's flag bearer with such absurd disciplinary measures? Do they think he's a wayward soul in adolescence? No external access. No external access. It's ridiculous. I'll gather the elder council. I'm willing to give them a good lesson. Wait, Lord Murakan. There are many ears here. They're supposed to hear. Strawberry pie. I can't believe the elder council is considering such a ridiculous punishment. Jean felt the same frustration as Murakan but couldn't express his anger. It's Joshua. It's not the elder council. It's an idea that came out of that guy's head. It seems he plans to offer a deal using the lifting of the exit prohibition as an excuse. Detention or disciplinary unit. Jean hadn't expected any other disciplinary action. So he hadn't thought of a plan to deal with it yet. Click. Jean clenched his teeth thinking about that dirty and despicable situation. On the other hand, that disgusting and despicable situation was the best way to deal with Jean. It's a bit unsettling, but if you thought you could get something from me this way, you're mistaken. Joshua. Jean softened his expression. Petro. When is the disciplinary meeting? The council president said he would hold it as soon as you returned, young master. As it has already been reported from the gate of your return, I'm sure the council members have already been summoned by the council president. I should change clothes before I go. Jean quickly headed to his room. Young master, I'll prepare a clean flag-bearer uniform. Shall I cut your hair before you go? No, that's not necessary. Prepare the most dazzling clothes. Bring out the cosmetics from the Pung clan and the hair dye. Pardon. It seems the council members don't like our products very much, so I have to show them how good they are. Jean washed his face and applied makeup, leaving his face radiant and gleaming. From the golden dye. Gilly couldn't find the right words, while Murakan held his belly, seemingly about to burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. The council members will be baffled. That's right, kid. That's how Runcandle should always be, defiant. Right? After a while, when the makeup was finished, Gilly gave an awkward smile. Young master, are you really going like this? Yes. Just make sure Murakan doesn't cause any trouble. Oh, should I take some product samples? It might be better if you just go out. Young master, may I ask what you're thinking? Strawberry pie. Why are you asking such a difficult question? Kid, what you're going to do seems fun. But are you okay with it? It's fine. In my opinion, this punishment is just for show. Joshua only wants to strike a deal with me using this as an excuse. He'll bypass the punishment and ask for the stolen items back. Gilly nodded as if he understood. Phew, what a relief. I thought you were just being rebellious, young master. No way. I'm not that childish. I'll be back. Don't worry too much. Of course, there was also a part of him that wanted to infuriate the old men in the back rooms. Shortly after leaving the room, Jean encountered his brothers in the hallway. The first one was Joshua. He had been waiting in the hallway as soon as he heard the news of Jin's return. He had something to say to him before heading to the disciplinary meeting. Jean, let's talk for a moment. Wait, you. Aren't you going to see the council president to receive your punishment? That's correct. But what the heck is that appearance? What's wrong with my appearance? Joshua couldn't help but feel like he was the one who looked strange in the face of Jin's confident demeanor. What's wrong? The light reflecting off your hair is blinding. And that heavy makeup. It looks like it's from a circus. And are you going to the disciplinary meeting like that? The Run Candle law doesn't say anything about flag bearers not being allowed to wear makeup or dye their hair. Does it? As far as I know, there's no such rule. Joshua touched his forehead. Haha, you're right. There's no such rule. But there is one about maintaining dignity. The reason you're being punished is because you failed to maintain it. The reason for the punishment isn't that. It's because the second flag bearer influenced the Elder Council. A sly smile crept onto Joshua's lips. Yes, that's true. I personally suggested to the council members that they impose a punishment on you. But it wasn't because you attacked my villa. It was a matter of dignity, just like now. Is that so? It's the first time I've heard that I attacked the second flag bearer's villa. It's a wild guess, since I have no intention of asking for the stolen items back anyway. This response was unexpected. Without responding, Jean remained silent, goading Joshua to continue. Anyway, this is just part of the power struggle. This time, you're the one who has come out victorious, so you have the right to claim the spoils. I'm glad it doesn't involve harming anyone. He replied calmly, but Joshua's attitude made him more cautious. The stolen shadow energy pearl must not be that important to him. Or maybe it wasn't Joshua's to begin with but belonged to the deceased demon. No, that doesn't seem right. There's something more at play. Jean could only think of one possibility. Joshua still doesn't know that the shadow energy pearl is a recording device, and both Joshua and Mother probably think they can take everything away from me whenever they want. They're using me until the perfect moment to take everything. If that's the case, Joshua's lack of obsession with the shadow energy pearl might be because perhaps Joshua expected Jean, the official contractor of Soderette, to discover its purpose. Or he might secretly want to figure out how Jean uses the shadow energy pearl by planting someone to observe him. Besides, the condition of having no external access wasn't my idea. It's the disciplinary measure set by the council. It's quite severe for failing in dignity, but it's your fault for earning the council's contempt. So, what do you want me to do? It means you choose wisely. I can't control the council completely. If they feel like it, they can even confine me to the house for 3 years. I appreciate the advice, but I'll handle it myself. Oh, and second flag bearer. What? It would be wise not to directly harm my comrades from now on. I can understand up to a point as long as you don't endanger their lives. I understand, huh? Doesn't seem like something you should be telling me. Do you think I spared your comrades because I couldn't kill them? Joshua's words hinted at animosity, causing Jean to shake his head. What I meant was for you to consider who stands to lose more. Think carefully. Upon hearing that, Joshua smiled satisfactorily. I hope you handle the upcoming disciplinary matter well. Jean and Joshua crossed paths and began walking in opposite directions. It wasn't just a scheme by Joshua to make a deal with me. If that were the case, Joshua wouldn't have merely mentioned the attack on his villa and let it slide. Regardless, Joshua wasn't the one responsible for the disciplinary decision. I'll find out the true purpose of the council once I meet with the council president. As he headed to the disciplinary meeting, Jin's second encounter was with the Tana brothers. As always, they seemed concerned when they saw Jean, but there was something slightly different. There was no trace of tension in their demeanor. Younger one, are you okay? Everything will probably be fine. Yeah. It will pass without a hitch, right? The Tana brothers no longer worried about their younger brother. Whatever happens, as long as he's the younger one. If he's the younger one, then he'll figure things out on his own. That perception had taken root in their minds. But still, that flashy outfit is a bit. No, maybe it's just your style. You've got this younger one. See you later. Jean felt a strange tenderness as he watched his two brothers clenching their fists tightly. The next encounter was with Dyphus and Mary. Ugh, those old farts. As if the disciplinary measures mean anything. Hey kiddo, nothing will happen to you. They wouldn't confine a talented guy like you for 3 years, right? Considering how many pending missions there are. They'll just restrict personal outings, but they'll still send you on missions. Probably under surveillance. Younger one, this case could be quite taxing. Dyfus Oriboni, you talk as if you really want the younger one to end up like this. Huh. When did I say that? But more importantly, younger one. Yes, big sister Mary. Well, are you really going to go dressed like that? It's provocative and pretty. But, I don't know, it seems out of place for the occasion and the place. It would be better to change if possible. Everyone he crossed paths with pointed out his attire without fail. Jean was certain he had chosen his clothes very well. The council will lose the justification for this disciplinary action once they see how profitable the products of the Golden Snow Tribe become. And if that's not enough, I can bring up the matter of improving the decisive killing move. After all, they were a force that had to be assimilated and controlled someday. The reason Jean felt so confident as he headed to meet with the council president was the strong conviction that the business he had started with the Golden Snow Tribe would never fail, and that the council members would never give up their desire for the final moves. Dignity. In Jin's opinion, the current Runcandle didn't have time to seek that. Perhaps true dignity in its real sense, but expanding the family's business was an essential task. Just like Zippel covertly used magical products to turn people into his slaves, the Runcandles also needed such items. Otherwise, they would inevitably decline. No, they were already in decline. If I were a council member, I would have supported someone from the flag bearer who started a business like this, even if that person had a hostile relationship with me. Or I would have somehow taken it over and tried to grow the business myself. Jean was frustrated that neither the council nor anyone in the family understood this simple and clear phenomenon. As he passed through the flag-bearer's hallway, he saw the council president's office. Phew! He took a deep breath. Just as he was about to enter, creak! A council member came out of the conference room. Unconsciously, Jean slightly bowed in front of him, inadvertently blocking his path. Chief of Civil Guards, Tellot Runcandle. Tellot stared at Jean for a while without responding. 12th flag-bearer, Jean Runcandle. Yes. No need to go in. Your disciplinary meeting is over. Chapter 327. What punishment? 3. Has the disciplinary meeting ended? Tellot nodded with an expressionless face. May I ask what decision was made? A 3-year prohibition from leaving the premises, I suppose? Surely such an unreasonable disciplinary measure couldn't have been confirmed without the involvement of the interested party. Do you think it's an absurd punishment? Yes, I do. In what sense? Because it's a disciplinary measure that has never occurred in the history of the Runcandle family. The prohibition from leaving the premises literally means taking away one's physical freedom, which is unacceptable for a Runcandle flag-bearer like me. If the fact that I am under a prohibition becomes known to the outside world, the image of Runcandle will also be tarnished. As Jean spoke calmly, a faint smile appeared at the corner of Tellot's lips. It was a smile that was hard to decipher. You're right, but the punishment you received has not changed. 3 years of prohibition from leaving the premises. Are the elders still inside? Do you plan to go in and argue with them? Yes. Do you think the elders will lift the punishment just because you argue? I appreciate your concern, but I tend to have a special ability to make things happen even if it doesn't work. Jean looked into Tellot's eyes as he spoke. A few seconds of silence passed. Just as Jean was about to leave without expecting a response, Tellot lightly grabbed Jin's shoulder. I've suspended your punishment. So stop. Jin's pupils dilated. You've suspended my punishment? Chief of the Civil Guards. That's right. Suspending the punishment was undoubtedly an act of assistance from Tellot. Then Jean remembered a truth that most people in the world knew. Unprovoked kindness doesn't exist. It's impossible for him to show me kindness for no reason. Chief of the Civil Guards. I only remember that he tried and failed to occupy the Kholin ruins long before I was born. Tellot Runcandle. Jean didn't know who he really was. It was natural, as it was impossible for him to have any connection with the Council of Elders in his past life. Therefore, Jean couldn't think of any reason why Tellot would approach him. Chief of the Civil Guards. What do you want from me? Tellot chuckled as Jean asked him directly. Well, you certainly have a way with words. What do you say? Are you going to have a cup of tea with this old man? Or are you going to pick a fight with the elders by rejecting even the suspension of your punishment? There was no need to hesitate. The Council of Elders was made up of 3 organizations: the Black Sword Association, the Law Guard, and the Civil Guard. Although the Civil Guard was the least influential among them, the chief of the Civil Guard held undeniable sway compared to Jean. If Tellot had decided on a suspension, it meant that the maximum outcome Jean could achieve was close to a suspension. Maybe even a suspension was difficult for me. After all, it wasn't Joshua who proposed the deal, so my options were limited. The money that would start flowing in from the Golden Snow Tribe's business in the future and the improvement of the final moves. For now, Jean had only 2 bargaining chips with the Council of Elders. Using them now wouldn't be a bad idea, but it was better to save them. It was a good strategy to be able to use them at a more decisive moment. I prefer tea. Good choice. Then follow me to my secret hideout. But, Jean, please speak. Did you really intend to attend the disciplinary meeting in that state? Yes. It's embarrassing to be asked that when we meet at the door. Haha. I'm glad I had a different opinion than the other elders. I can't even imagine how furious the chief of the Black Sword Association would have been if you had entered as you were. Tellot ordered his assistant to bring his private carriage. The 2 of them boarded the carriage side by side and began heading towards their hideout. A secret hideout? Step. Inside the carriage, Tellot remained silent. Jean made no effort to show curiosity or initiate a conversation, but Tellot seemed to find that attitude quite pleasant. It's been a while since I brought someone from Runcandle here. Instead of taking Jean to his private villa within the Garden of Swords, Tellot deliberately took him to a different place. The place they arrived at was an alley on the outskirts of Caelin. Caelin, as a city with the Garden of Swords, was virtually the heart of the Huffister Alliance. There was no city in the Huffister Alliance more developed than Caelin. That's why even the residents of Caelin, though commoners, were mostly individuals who had accumulated considerable wealth. But here, too, there was a slum, although it was subtly outside the administrative area. Tellot's secret hideout was here. I expected a grand space for a secret hideout, but it's a hovel, Jean thought. The alley was too narrow for the carriage to enter. They walked for about 30 minutes through a few muddy, beggar-filled alleys. During their walk, beggars or homeless people looked cautiously at the 2 men. But no one dared to beg. If they're willing to have a residence in a hovel like this, they must want to revitalize this place. But the way he looks at them is harsh, Jean thought. Tellot showed no sympathy for the destitute. No, it went beyond not showing sympathy. He seemed to despise them. Tellot's pupils filled with disdain as he looked at them. The alley is quite long, isn't it? Yes. Most people in the world wouldn't have any idea that such a slum exists in the very heart of this city, which is the center of the Huffister Alliance. When you arrive through the main gates, all you see are gleaming buildings and well-kept streets. Jean gradually understood Tellot's intention. Crunch. Tellot opened the old, or rather almost rotten wooden door. This narrow, dirty, roughly constructed house made of layers of fabric was Tellot's secret hideout. As soon as the door opened, an animal smell wafted out. Woof! Woof! Meow! Meow meow! Tellot distributed food among the animals with a kind look. The animals flocked to Tellot, leaving marks on his shiny armor. Jean had been silently watching him as he distributed the food. Do you understand why I brought you here? You want the slum to disappear. It seems you realize that my company can bring you wealth. If I wanted to, I could make it disappear right now. I could send the Guardian Knights to kill all the useless humans outside and order the laborers to demolish the slum and build new buildings. It would be easier than snapping my fingers. Tellot gently pushed the animals aside with his hands. But that wouldn't be natural. Also, Runcandle doesn't get rid of this slum because it doesn't have excess wealth. There's no need to spend money on unnecessary places, no matter how much money you have. As the animals separated and stuck to him. Again, Tellot smiled with satisfaction. While you judge the destitute as useless humans, you show indulgence to the animals, Jean commented. These animals are innocent, aren't they? Beggars are perfectly capable of working, but they choose to beg, so they deserve to die. I don't let them live out of compassion. It's simply because there's no need to kill them. I see. Do you know? In Draka, the central city of the Lutero Magical Federation, there isn't a single slum like this. I know. Not only in Draka, but in a score of neighboring cities, there are no slums. It's not because Zippel puts a lot of effort into helping the slums of the central cities. It's just a natural result of Zippel's excessive wealth flowing downward, to the point where you'll be left astounded. Tellet's words were true. With its financial power alone, Runcandle competed for the second or third place globally with Vermont. However, Zippel, being the first, possessed much greater wealth than the combined funds of the two forces. I believe the business you've launched can narrow the gap between Zippel and our financial power. If that happens, this slum will transform into a prosperous area without much effort. Are you suggesting I contribute a portion of the business profits to the Garden of Swords? That's right. If that were the case, even if you left it alone, it would naturally contribute to some extent. Nonsense. From what I've observed, you're the kind of person who never shares what's his with others. What portion of the profits do you want? Tellet's pupils narrowed. 20%. Jean was secretly amazed. If it were any other elder, they would have demanded a much larger share in the same situation. Indeed, you hit the mark. If you had asked for more than that, I would have never agreed. With no deceit, if you faithfully contribute 20% each month, I'll do my best to assist your business. It's not impossible to completely eliminate the disciplinary measures that have been suspended. Anyway, Jean had already prepared himself to collect more than 20%. Jean had contemplated up to 50%, but since Tellat presented himself this way, it was a concern he didn't have to worry about. But I can't provide 20% just for the disciplinary measures. It seems what I earn is somewhat insufficient. However, if he could secure something extra, it would be even better. What else do you want? Please, tell me about the relationship between the council president and the second flag bearer, Jordan Runcandle. Undoubtedly, he was Rose's person. But Jean learned a new piece of information from his conversation with Joshua. Joshua can't completely control the Council of Elders. Joshua subtly hoped that this disciplinary action against me would be shelved. Tellat shrugged. You have a clever mind but show a careless appearance on an obvious problem. Isn't it obvious? Jordan Runcandle, the council president, and the second flag bearer have a relationship of mutual prosperity, not to mention competition. You're right about mutual prosperity, but I've never heard of the competition. Tellet's eyes widened, and after a few seconds, he nodded as if he understood. Ah, of course. Well, it makes sense. You are different from me, let alone the highest-ranked flag bearer, so it's understandable. Just remember one thing. The council president has not given up on his dream of becoming the patriarch. Most of those who had spent time with Jordan knew this information. But Jean couldn't help but not know it because he lived in a completely different era from them. Everyone fell silent, so to speak. Your actions earlier were quite refreshing, but the council president, Jordan, is a more formidable person than he appears. Despite his narrow-mindedness and outdated behavior, he is a very wicked and strong individual. I know. He survived in the hegemony battle against my father. Well, you could interpret it as the patriarch simply letting him escape. Anyway, why did that guy who seems to know everything act like a crazed horse? Suddenly, Jean remembered the conversation he had with Zed immediately after the flag-bearer appointment ceremony. I see why the council president brought a super-strong disciplinary action, the 3-year house arrest ban. He planned to use it as leverage to put a leash on me and rein in Joshua. Now he understood. It was Jordan, not Joshua, who intended to propose a deal under the pretext of disciplinary measures. A chill ran down his spine. It was a bewildering feeling. If Jean had known that Jordan was Joshua's ally, he would have responded accordingly in the future. From your expression, it seems I have negotiated the value properly. It's been a satisfactory conversation. Very well, now I take my leave. I will have someone send the contract for this deal to your room. But remember, even though I offer you my protection, your business will not be completely secure. I would appreciate at least some shelter. Tellot spent some time interacting with the slums animals. Jean watched his actions for a while from the outside and thought to himself, Chief of the Civil Guard, you are truly an eccentric person. On the other hand, Tellot had another thought as he looked at the path where Jean had departed. I wonder if the 12th flagbearer will bring new changes to the Runcandle family. I'm looking forward to it. Chapter 328. Be yourself. After meeting Tellot, Jean stayed at home for a while and focused solely on his missions. Through teleportation gates, he traveled all over the world, participating in both large and small battles against Zippel and mediating conflicts between different factions. He rescued hostages, eliminated enemies, and even destroyed installations. In 1 month, Jean completed the astonishing number of 7 missions. Although there were no missions of the highest difficulty level, like killing Barton Vicina, accomplishing 7 tasks without rest was exhausting, and he couldn't help but feel fatigued. Naturally, Jean succeeded in all the missions. In 5 of them, he even achieved additional objectives. The reason Jean was so enthusiastic about mission accomplishment up to that point was that his 3-year punishment of no outdoor activities was still in the suspended phase. Tellot was making efforts, but it was impossible to completely eliminate the punishment in a short time. In particular, Jordan still held a grudge against him for the suspension of his punishment and would bring up the topic again if Jean made the slightest mistake. Chew. Gulp. It seems I've become a delinquent academy student, doing volunteer work on campus. Achieving this level of success in just a month, even the Council of Elders will have to look at me differently, Jean said as he swallowed the meat he was chewing. By the way, it reminds me of the old days. It's been almost 10 years since I ate with you and other comrades. Guardian Knight, Bellup. You haven't forgotten that I always took care of the meat for you back then, have you? If I had known you would be courteous about something that happened almost 10 years ago, I would have taken less, my lord. Jean was sitting on the floor of the cadets' empty training field, eating with Bellup. It was a meat-heavy diet just like in their cadet days. A smile appeared on Bellup's face as he looked at the meat on the plate. Bellup Schmitz had returned from the eastern mountain region of the Middle Kingdom just a few days ago. In the end, Kazan and Yulian took Wyruk, the apostate knight of the Vankila, to the eastern mountains. Bellup managed to capture them and secured his reason for returning. Naturally, as soon as he returned, he sought out Jean and pledged loyalty to him, and they even carried out missions together until yesterday. When those wanted criminals suddenly infiltrated the mountain range, I initially thought it was someone from your hostile forces trying to kill me, but I never imagined that Lord had sent those terrible criminals. Bellup shuddered as he recalled the battle in the mountains. That was Bellup's longest, most intense, and loneliest fight of his life. Chasing, fleeing, seizing opportunities, ambushing, being ambushed, running out of provisions. He traversed several treacherous mountains to exhaustion, without any support. Haha, you must have felt quite betrayed. It was an experience I don't want to go through again. However, thanks to that, I made significant progress. Not only in swordsmanship but also physically and mentally. It seems you've become much stronger. Excluding Jean, Bellup had always been the person with the most potential during their cadet days. With that potential, he set the goal of becoming Jin's knight and dedicated himself to it every day, even coming to the brink of life and death several times. So his growth was natural. By the way, I suddenly feel grateful for having met you in our cadet days, my lord. Why do you suddenly bring it up after talking about betrayal and feeling uncomfortable? When did I do that? I was a bit nervous, that's all. Anyway, I only have that thought. If I hadn't met my lord, my life would have been very unhappy. Why do you think that? During our cadet days, my lord helped me overcome my fear. Even after my lord became the provisional flag bearer, even now, sometimes I think of that day. Right now, you've probably realized it too, but you're weaker than me, and you're kinder than me. I like that about you. But if you only do good things, you won't survive in this hell. Belop recalled the conversation Jean had with him during their cadet days. Jean also remembered the same conversation, and for some reason it made him blush. Thanks to that moment, I was able to become a Runcandle Knight. I couldn't have endured it without my lord. Maybe it's an exaggeration, but I feel that one day, overwhelmed by suffering, I would have given up on life. You're saying unnecessary things. Even if it hadn't been me, you would have done quite well. Indeed, in Belop's previous life, he did not do very well. Before the regression, Belop was exiled from Runcandle, then went to Hyran and trained before becoming a Knight of Vermont. Following the orders of the imperial family, he repeatedly committed unwanted massacres and ended his wretched life by his own hand. As these memories resurfaced, Jean, who had changed Belop's life, felt even prouder. My lord, you have no idea how shocked everyone was by your actions during that duel right now. It still comes up in conversations whenever our comrades gather. Ah, really? But the most impactful moment was when my lord rescued Mesa all by himself. When my lord went alone to the land of the Beastmen and brought back Mesa, everyone made a vow in their hearts. They pledged their loyalty to only you. Looking back, the unfortunate connection with Kinselo began from that moment. At that time, I only thought Kinselo was a group of crazy terrorists. Now, they were such a huge force that even Zippel hesitated to engage in large-scale battles with them. Moreover, it was still highly likely that the leader's true identity was a demon. Well, Kinselo is quite worrisome, indeed. I should visit the Ivliano family soon and monitor their movements. For now, there didn't seem to be room for such actions. In fact, Jean was still absorbed in his duties, unable even to visit the third tomb revealed by Almango. Jean had called Belop precisely to address that matter. It's been a long time since I heard compliments like this. Where did that immature brat from back then go? Did he grease his tongue with oil or something? If my lord wishes, I can continue. No, that's enough. But speaking of which, Belop, there's something I need you to do. Please, tell me anything. From today until my return, you are Jean Runcandle. What? You know the next mission starts tomorrow, right? Do you mean you? The mission to rescue the Count of the Ekin Kingdom, who was kidnapped by mercenaries. Yes, but now it's no longer my mission. It's yours. I want you to play the role of Jean Runcandle for a while. Are you serious? Well, the Count will be blindfolded anyway. Even if someone tries to rescue him, they won't be able to recognize you accurately. Rescue him, pretend to be me for a while, and then hand him over to the Ekin Defense Forces. Incredible! Are you telling me you lack confidence in a rescue mission? No, it's not that. How can I pretend to be you, my lord? Why not? The hostage will have his eyes covered, and you will wear a mask. Furthermore, I've acquired a fake Sigmund. Say what you need, and I'll take care of it. When he had already completed 7 missions, Jean had detoured to Pecan Minche and asked for a fake Sigmund sword. It was nothing more than a sword with no special functions, but it looked exactly the same at first glance. Of course, it couldn't perfectly replicate the uniquely sharp and pale gleam of Sigmund, but it could achieve a similar color. Moreover, as the counterfeit Sigmund was also an item made by the divine craftsmanship of the god blacksmith, it could only be a renowned sword in its own right. It should be finished by now, and try putting this on. Jean removed his flagbearer's cloak and handed it to Belop. Startled, Belop anxiously looked around. Even though there was no one nearby who could see them in the training ground, he considered it a delicate matter. Young master, my lord, are you serious about this? This is the Abandorado's coat. Only the Abandoredo of Runcandle can wear this. It's just a piece of clothing. Try it on to see if it fits. My lord, it's an order. Belop, you've become bold after getting a big head. It was a jest, but Belop lowered his head with a serious expression. No, I'll try it on. Oh, luckily it fits you well. I'll give you dye to darken your hair. Are you sure about this? If by any chance your disguise is exposed, and it becomes a problem within the clan, I'll make sure you're not harmed. Don't worry. That's not what I meant. Am I trying to obstruct my lord's will because I fear for my safety? Never mind then. This is how you can help me. You're the best choice. The most trustworthy, with a build similar to mine, and the best swordsman among my knights. There are enough elements for people who don't know you well to confuse you with me. I'd like to send Mesa, but there's a gender issue in her case. The gap in battle prowess between my lord and me is much wider than my lord thinks. I would easily be exposed. That's why I have to face the strong ones myself. Like you said, they'll recognize you. My lord, you're not planning to have me impersonate you not only this time but in the future as well, are you? Unfortunately, your trust is misplaced. You pay the price for eating meat. I also have a lot of work outside the clan, you know? Can you handle it? Phew. Belop let out a sigh. Then, as if determined, he replied, From today on, whenever I have free time, I will seek professional actors and practice the art of acting and impersonation. This is also an order from my lord, so I am obligated to do it perfectly. Excellent mindset. And if by any chance the Black Sword Association catches up to us, even if the mission fails, make sure to escape undetected. If you're caught by the chief of the Black Sword Association, it will be the end for both of us. My lord, a moment ago you said that if my disguise is exposed, you would somehow ensure that I escape unharmed. Did I say such a thing? Yes. My lord always gets involved in such adventures. Since the results have always been good, there was no need to change. Sometimes I worry, and all our comrades feel anxious, my lord. Some adorable guys. Jean chuckled and lightly touched Belop's shoulder. When all our comrades pass the Guardian Knight test, let's meet. Let's have a drink and share some words. What words do you have to share? I'll tell you when the time comes. He couldn't tell the younger division, who would come running with excitement after passing the test, that another hellish training awaited them. Except for Belop, most members of the younger division were at the level of late 6 stars or early 7 stars, making it difficult to immediately use all their strength. But, my lord, where do you plan to go while sending me on the mission? I'm going to visit one of my ancestors. Chapter 329, Timar's Third Tomb, 1, June 5, 1799. Jean, dressed in a brown robe, disguised as an ordinary traveler, walked along a forest path in the southern border region of the Zhan Kingdom. I think I've memorized this route too. Although it was the beginning of summer, the forest path remained pleasantly cool. The thought of meeting handsome and straightforward friends after a long time put Jeremiah in a good mood. As Jean strolled leisurely, he suddenly stopped and grinned mischievously. Once again, the aroma of grilled fish filled the air. The scent of freshly cooked fish wafting through the southern Zhan Kingdom forest meant that the nearby Watertails tribe was preparing their meal. Thump, thump. The sounds of excited chatter from the Watertails grew nearer. As always, they were dancing and celebrating around the freshly roasted fish, completely oblivious to Jeremiah's approach. There were 3 Watertails, and Jean recognized all their faces. Dark Flame. This voice is... The dancing Watertails turned abruptly toward Jeremiah. So, your big nose and big eyes. Jean Runcandle. Always. Find us. How? Well, I've received your help quite often. This time I also have a gift. This time, I'm not a needy fugitive. When Jean pulled a high-quality dried eel from his bag, the eyes of the 3 Watertails lit up. This is eel. Dried. A precious fish. Is it for us? Really? Are you serious? The Watertails salivated. Not only serious but really. Did those stingy Golden Snows never share money? It's high-quality food, but if you're financially strong, you can buy it for 3 meals a day without any problem. The Watertails were too busy devouring the dried eel to respond. Jean extended the eel to them, and they pounced on it, devouring it eagerly. Chomp, chomp, yum. Jean patiently waited for them to finish eating and realized he had to talk to the members of the Golden Snow tribe when he met with them. Oh, sorry, I ate too much. It's delicious. The Watertails, with their mouths full, nodded enthusiastically. It's okay. Are you going to the cave? Yes. Following the water tails, Jean headed toward their secret cave. Every time I come here, I realize that this cave is truly like a labyrinth. No matter how good someone's memory was, it was easy to get lost within the structure. The entrance to the area where the Golden Snow tribe and Watertails lived could not be found without a guide, and the dwelling of the cat tribe was completely inaccessible. There wasn't a single guide in the world who knew their location. If someone were to search for the cat tribe within this cave, they could only find them by destroying the entire cave. Even then, they wouldn't be able to find that tribe. The destroyers could only catch glimpses of traces of their presence. The cat tribe would retreat deep into the cave. When they reached the space occupied by the Watertails and Golden Snow tribe, a faint yellow glow emanated from within. "Oh, you've arrived, our strong and mighty comrade. Do you know how many letters we receive in each of our branches addressed to you? It's so strange how humans, regardless of their age or gender, write love letters and send them. It's hard to understand, even when we know it. But still, they're all lovely customers, aren't they? You should expect great things, Jean Runcandle. Since we started advertising with your face, our sales have literally skyrocketed. Noble customers line up, willing to pay 10 times more for top-quality cosmetics, even if production is delayed." Seeing Jean, Suni, Dory, and Song poured out their words with delighted expressions. "What's all this? Gold? Are you kidding me? Have you decorated the entire cave with gold?" The inside of the cave where the members of the Golden Snow tribe were sitting was completely adorned with gold. The faint yellow glow that Jean had sensed from afar now had a clear source. "Well, we tried the gold bath once. How does it look? Impressive, isn't it?" Pong, who was perched on a pile of gold coins, smiled at Jean, his front teeth gleaming under the light emanating from the gold. Swoosh! Pong descended and reached out a hand to Jean. "Thanks to the promotion we did with you, our Pong clan business is booming, Jean Runcandle. I need to give you a business report. We have some matters to discuss." Our researchers have recently developed an incredible cosmetic product. But the ingredients are quite unique, making the supply challenging. "How unique are the ingredients?" "There are flowers that only grow in the Hidden Palace forest. Their whitening effect is tremendous, so it had to be done. So we thought about establishing trade relations with the Hidden Palace, but I've heard rumors that you have become the son-in-law of the Hidden Palace. Where did you hear those rumors?" "We encounter quite a few humans in our business." "Is that story true?" "They are baseless rumors." But smoke doesn't come out of the chimney for no reason. Is it possible to establish a line of communication with the Hidden Palace?" The word line made Jean remember Lucas's direct line, and he let out a wry laugh. "I can't guarantee it. I'm still a human with some sense of shame." "Sense of shame?" "I owe a lot to the Hidden Palace. So what's the point of owing them even more? For now, write a business report and send it to Tychon. I don't know why they call you Runcandle's flag bearer. It seems you like reports. But Pong, do you have money piled up with gold nuggets inside the cave? And yet you don't even buy dried eels for the Watertails? Why are you saying that all of a sudden? When I gave them dried eels, they devoured them as if they hadn't eaten in days. I hope you didn't withhold the money from the sale of Bradamanti and didn't share it with the Watertails." When Jean asked in a low voice, the members of the Golden Snow tribe vigorously shook their heads. "No, we shared it. Definitely. But why are those guys still living in poverty? You know what? We gave them money to save, and we told them several times they could buy heaps of dried eels every day. But instead, they have no idea how to spend it properly and just pile it carelessly in some corner of the cave. So, frustrated, I personally took it to the bank. I told them they could enjoy plenty of dried eels every day. But still, they say they're happy enough. What can we do about it?" Jean turned to look at the Watertails. "And all of this is gold-plated. They're not real gold nuggets we've placed. It's time for aggressive investments, and there's no room for unnecessary money squandering. Do you think we would dare to cheat those wretched ones? We have principles, after all." Pong looked at the Watertails with pride as he spoke. "So what brings you here today?" without warning. It doesn't seem to be related to business problems judging by the atmosphere. I've come to meet the cat tribe. At Jin's response, not only the upper echelons of the Peng clan but also the small beastmen in the cave perked up. Suddenly, the cat tribe? Do you have to meet with them? Yes. Well, this is going to be difficult. The cat tribe saw you as the person who would protect the little beastmen, but other than that, they're not the type you can meet just because you want to, right? You'd need incredible luck to come across them. Oh, there's no need to say something painful. Song pointed behind Jin. Oh, what? What? Haha, this is interesting. It reminds me of a similar situation we had before. Yes, it was like this when Jin Runcandle was a wanted fugitive being pursued. A mysterious race with purple eyes gleaming amidst their snow-white fur. The members of the cat tribe had silently distanced themselves about 20 steps away from Jin and the little beastmen, watching them. Seems that, after all, you are truly special. Could it be that you made some kind of promise? Peng alternated his gaze between Jin and the members of the cat tribe. Truth be told, Jin was also inwardly surprised by the appearance of the cat tribe members. But, Almango, yes. Do you happen to know who possesses the key to the third tomb? The conversation Jin had with Almango upon exiting the second tomb. At that time, Almango had responded that the cat tribe possessed the key to the third tomb. When I asked him what to do if the cat tribe doesn't find me, he said he didn't know. Could it really have been that easy? As Jin cautiously approached the cat tribe members, a sudden worry crossed his mind. That they would disappear before him, as when he had fled to La Ferosa during his time as a provisional flag-bearer. But soon, he saw that the cats gestured as if inviting him to follow them. Hurry! Cats can be very capricious. If you hesitate even for a moment, they might vanish. Approaching the cat tribe members cautiously, Jin kept a certain distance between them. Just before the cat tribe members turned to walk away, Jin was certain it was the same person he had seen before. Furthermore, they had a strangely somber expression on their face. What could be going on? They seemed completely different from the last time I saw them. The cat tribe members walked while maintaining a certain distance from Jin. Just following them made Jin's mind grow fuzzy. It was impossible to know if it was some kind of artifact or a spell they had cast. It was like wandering through a dream, gradually losing touch with reality. However, it wasn't unpleasant or dangerous. Amidst this seemingly endless stroll, suddenly the view widened, revealing a beach filled with violet stars. A beach? And the starlight is violet. The nearest sea in the southern border of the Zhan Kingdom was a distance that couldn't be covered on foot in a short time. I only walked for about 5 minutes. It felt like the first time I crossed the snow garden riding on the snow toad. Mort. Looking around, Jin spotted the cats in the distance drawing something on the sandy beach. My name is Neru, a contractor of 1,000 years, Jin Runcandle. We've met before, haven't we? Yes, thank you for helping me back then. This is where I greet you properly. This is our own space connected to the caves. You're the first human to enter here. Thank you for inviting me. You won't be able to see this beautiful scenery with your own eyes again, so make sure to take a good look. It will be some time before we open Timar's tomb. Jin naturally understood that it was because the cat tribe would not invite him to this space again. But in the next moment, Neru added something more. Soon, your enemies will come here to destroy this place and massacre the little beastmen. Chapter 330. Timar's Third Tomb, 2. Jin widened his eyes. My enemies, who would do such a thing? And how are they going to do it? Neru remained silent and shook their head. We don't know the details. We only sense an imminent danger, as if the cave is about to collapse soon. The reason our species has survived without extinction until now is that intuition. The intuition of the cat tribe. Relying solely on that didn't instill much confidence in the cat tribe's ability to survive so far. However, based on the experience of crossing from the cave to the island alone, they seemed to have some sort of mystical power, so Jin decided to believe in it. Are you concluding that these attackers who destroyed this place and massacred the little beast men are my enemies based solely on intuition? No, it's just a logical deduction. Considering various causal relationships, the only reason our territory would be attacked during this period is because of your dealings with the Golden Snow Tribe. The reason we can't pinpoint the exact enemy is that you have many enemies. Even without the unique intuition of the Cat Tribe, it was well known that Jean had many enemies. It was evident in Zipple and could be deduced from the conflicts within Runcandle. During the incident in the Holy Kingdom, he was involved with Kinslow, so even to a stranger who knew nothing, it was clear that Jean was up against three massive forces in the world. So who could it be? Was it someone from his clan trying to hinder his business or warn him by attacking the little beastmen? Was Zipple planning an ambush after seeing Jin's bold announcement? Or could it be that Kinslow had some hidden motive and was meddling in the lands of the little beastmen? All three possibilities were valid, and it was impossible to make a hasty judgment. If what you say, Lord Neru, is true, and the cave is attacked because of me, then I will take responsibility. We will spread the message to the little beastmen, so you won't have to be held accountable. Escape routes are already prepared. That's fortunate. However, what if there's a what-if scenario? It would be better to go back and warn them to escape immediately. Jean didn't want to experience the horrific event of the little beastmen being massacred. If we inform them in advance, the problem could worsen due to the displacement of the Golden Snow Tribe and the Watertails Tribe. Also, according to our intuition, if that happens, we won't be able to fulfill our promise to Soderette. It sounds like you're willing to hold the lives of the little beastmen hostage in order to keep your promise to Soderette. That's right. Why would you go to such lengths? What if the little beastmen are annihilated? Once they're dead, no one can take responsibility. Instantly, anger welled up inside Jean. Of course, it was all based on the intuition of the cats. The fact that Jin's enemies were attacking, the possibility of the little beastmen being massacred, and the possibility of the problem worsening if they warned everyone of the danger in advance. However, Jean couldn't shake that ominous feeling. Jean Runcandle. Neru lowered their gaze, appearing bitter. As we have always done, we want to protect the little beastmen. You asked what would happen if the little beastmen die, but we are more concerned about not keeping our promise to Soderette. It's a promise we've waited 1,000 years for. Jean remained silent, maintaining eye contact with Neru. For the promise with Soderette, how many sacrifices do you think have been made so far? Your ancestors, my comrades, and countless humans and dragons. 500 years ago, there were even times when my comrades were hunted down and killed by Zipple. Jean let out a sigh. As a contractor of Soderette, fulfilling their mission. The first time he made a contract with Soderette in his past life, he never had these thoughts. He simply embraced Soderette's words, becoming an unparalleled magic swordsman, ruling the world, and seeking a small revenge against his family, who abandoned him. However, after the regression, Jean gradually came to understand that Soderette's power was not an unconditional gift. Given the circumstances, regression seemed to have been caused by Soderette, and everything prepared for him bore elements that could topple the world, so he didn't think the price was excessive. It just seemed cruel. For Jean himself and for those who sacrificed for Soderette's preparations. Swish, swish, Neru was drawing something in the sand. The pattern they were drawing with a branch was of a strange type, one that Jean had never seen before. It may be hard to believe, but we, more than anyone else, want to protect the little beastmen. What was the connection between the cat tribe and Soderette? Friends. The cat god and Soderette were very good friends. And he has saved us, including the little beastmen, from being exterminated by Javier several times. The little beastmen, all of them, owe their lives to Soderette. Wawa. Suddenly, the pattern that Neru drew began to glow purple. Unlike the dark magic used by Rontelgius recently, it emitted a holy aura, something mystical. It was the phenomenon that occurred when the seal of the third tomb was released, a power that the cat tribe used when creating special hiding places. If your enemies had reached this place before you, you would never have been able to enter the third tomb of Timar. Your choice isn't entirely convincing, but still. Jean paused for a moment as he looked at the seal. Thank you. I don't know what else to say. Don't worry too much. As I said before, since we sense danger in advance, once you return from the tomb, we will evacuate the little beastmen to a place where they won't be discovered. From the purple pattern, the power of shadow began to emanate, forming an elliptical door. Finally, we can fulfill the 1,000-year-old promise. Enter Jean Runcandle. I will be back as soon as possible, so that no one gets hurt. Yes, and I have a request. Please go ahead. Please convey this message to the friend inside. I, Neru, on behalf of the cat tribe, express my gratitude for 1,000 years of solitude and hard work. Try as I might, I can no longer remember who they were. Neru spoke with a sorrowful voice. Almango, do you know who the guardian inside the second tomb is? I cannot answer that. Why not? All memories of him are gone. No matter how hard I try to think about it, I can only recall a very faint image. Just like when Jean met Almango and found the second tomb, Neru seemed to have forgotten who their friend was. The one who had guarded the tomb for 1,000 years. It was the result of Zippel erasing them from history. Understood. Jean entered the shadow energy gate. The third tomb, unlike the first and second, showed no signs of destruction or traces of battle. The entire space wasn't made of dark shadow energy alone. It resembled the central hall of a castle. There was also a familiar feeling to it, and Jean soon understood the reason. It's exactly like the interior of the storm castle I saw in the first tomb, the central vestibule. There was no reason to be surprised. Jean had already witnessed a person's clone through the power of the shadows with Misha, and had encountered guardians that perfectly replicated their appearance from 1,000 years ago. So there was no reason why the space itself couldn't replicate. Although he felt the desire to closely examine the appearance of the storm castle from 1,000 years ago, he moved forward quickly. He had a sense of urgency, fearing it might be too late for the little beastmen. It was the first time Jean had gone alone to Timar's tomb. The first time was with Murakan, and the second time with his companions. So far, every time he found a tomb, there were formidable guardians. Sildare Runcandle, Sarah Runcandle. Both were guardians too strong for Jean. But this time, the tomb was different. Lord Almango said there wouldn't be guardians like that in this tomb, so there shouldn't be a need to fight. Almango also didn't know exactly who was inside the third tomb, just like Neru. However, Almango had a bit more memory than Neru. Inside the third tomb, I've heard that the former chief steward of the Runcandle family is present. The chief steward, the person who handled various matters for the Runcandles, a clan of magic swordsmen, during that time. Even now, the clan's chief steward has more information than most members, especially the steward, Heinz, who is my father's confidant. He might know more about the clan's secrets than Joshua. That was also true for the Runcandles of 1,000 years ago. In any faction, there had to be someone directly responsible for the clan's affairs, big or small. But the chief steward here might also have an incomplete mental state or memories. Lady Sarah also suffered severe mental fatigue to endure 1,000 years. Step. When Jean reached the end of the central hall, a person bowed their head to him. I have been waiting, Sir Jean Runcandle. It is an honor to meet you. You know my name. Are you the former chief steward of the Runcandles? Yes, Soderette has mentioned the name of the 1,000-year contractor several times. I am Luth Damaro Yull, the chief steward of Runcandle. Luth Damaro Yull. The chief steward who introduced themselves had the same vibrant red hair as Valeria. Luth looked like a young human, but she wasn't human. Anyone could tell at first glance that she wasn't human. Just looking at her bright eyes that seemed like galaxies in motion and her pointed, upright ears, as well as the round gem embedded in her forehead. She was a fairy as the chief steward of the ancient Runcandles. Jean knew that fairies had gone extinct 1,000 years ago, and today only their descendants, who made royal melodic drinks for special people on special days and hours, lived in the world. They were elusive beings, not easy to come across. There were few records left about fairies, and their lifespan was similar to that of dragons. Perhaps that's why, despite enduring 1,000 years alone, Luth showed no signs of losing her sanity or crumbling. Luth Damaro Yul. Neru, the representative of the cat tribe, asked me to convey his gratitude for your efforts. I feel the same. Upon hearing that, Luth smiled sadly. I don't remember who Neru was, but I have a strange feeling of nostalgia. I see. Sir Jean Runcandle, once you leave this space, you will forget my name. You won't remember my appearance or the conversations we had. Tick. Luth took a small box from her embrace and opened it. Inside was a shadow energy pearl. However, you will remember what you see on this recording device.